it's poisonous and can kill you, it's probably coming from Australia. Famous for its terrifying fauna, today we'll show you what incredible things are really lurking down under. From hell plants to a haunted firefly tunnel to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Get ready to set off with us on an Australian journey of a different kind. Egyptian hieroglyphics. Did you know there are ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics in Australia? But how is that actually possible? Did the Pharaoh's empire really set sail thousands of years ago and reach the other side of the world? The fact that the 3.5-meter-high sandstone walls near Gosford are actually adorned with over 300 ancient Egyptian symbols is undisputed. However, this does not mean that they are really the ancient Egyptians who immortalized the characters in the stone. Since the so-called Gosford glyphs first hit the headlines in the early 1980s, most people assume that this was also their period of origin. Thus, there are many circumstances that massively question the authenticity of the hieroglyphs. On the other hand, there is the rather untidy arrangement of the symbols, which does not correspond with the otherwise so precise works of the Egyptians. But even more striking is the fact that the content deals with the texts from the time of Cheops, using signs that were invented only 2,500 years later. The Jungle Castle. After hearing there was plenty of work on Sydney's burgeoning railroads, José Paranella left his native Spain in 1913 and moved to Australia. With barely any knowledge of English and almost no money in his pocket, a unique dream grew in José's mind. He wanted to build a grandiose castle in the middle of the Australian forests. After José briefly returned to Spain to get married, it was up to the newlyweds to bring José's vision to reality. However, the two did not want to build a luxurious residence for themselves alone, but a castle that everyone can visit. No sooner said than done. After the so-called Paranella Park opened its doors in 1935, it quickly became a popular destination for locals in the area. Dances, movie nights, parties, and even weddings were regularly held there. The castle also housed a small museum that displayed coins, dolls, guns, and many interesting items from North Queensland and the rest of the world. And although the flood of 1946 destroyed most of the grounds and José died 2 years later, Paranella Park continues to live the dream of its creator to this day. Thus, tourist tours, overnight stays, and weddings are still held there. Gimpy Gimpy. For 2 or 3 days, the pain is almost unbearable. I couldn't work or sleep. It felt like huge hands were trying to crush my chest. The pain was pretty bad for another 14 days or so. But the twinge lasted for 2 years and recurred every time I took a cold shower. There was nothing like it. It was 10 times worse than anything else. This unpalatable quote comes from the conservation officer, Ernie Ryder. But what happened to the poor guy to put him in such agony? Did he burn himself with a dangerous acid? Or was he attacked by a poisonous animal? Well, not quite. Ernie had the dubious pleasure of getting up close and personal with the Australian nettle in the early 1960s, also known as the Gimpy Gimpy. The plant causes extreme burning pain and can't even be relieved with morphine. The tricky thing is that it's not even necessary to touch the plant directly to feel the fierce effects of the so-called morphidine on your own body. Thus, stinging hairs that permanently trickle from the plant can penetrate practically any clothing. But what poses a serious danger to humans is not a significant problem for many native animals. These are not only resistant to the Gimpy Gimpy, but even eat it. New amphibian species. In the 90s, retired chicken farmer Mahal Mahaldis devoted himself to a long overdue task. He wanted to finally repair the broken garden wall. To do so, the man bought a 1.6-ton slab of sandstone. But when he cut through the outer layers of the stone, the ancient outline of an unknown creature was revealed. And although the fossil became the property of the Australian Museum in Sydney, it was to take until 2023 before the exact background of the prehistoric amphibian was fully deciphered. Thus, we are probably dealing with a salamander-like creature that grew to 1.5 meters in length and lived in the freshwater lakes and streams of the region 250 million years ago. Christened Auranopenthes cypinatus. By scientists, the newly discovered species belongs to the Temnospondyli family. These are particularly hardy amphibians that survived 2 of the 5 major mass extinctions. The Lost World. Given this intertitle, images of veritable giants and seemingly endless landscapes immediately come to mind. However, we should not forget one thing. Even in the smallest, things take place that leave explorers completely overwhelmed. For example, scientists in northern Australia have discovered a lost world of ancient organisms that could permanently change our understanding of man's earliest ancestors. In closed-in rocks, we are dealing with so-called protosterol biota, microscopic creatures that belong to the karyote family. While these tiny creatures lived in Earth's waterways about 1.6 billion years ago, eukaryotes have a complex cell structure with mitochondria and a nucleus. Modern forms include fungi, plants, animals, and single-celled organisms such as amoeba. However, both animals and other nucleated organisms can trace their ancestry back to the last common eukaryotic ancestors that lived over 1.2 billion years ago. Protosterol biota may even have embodied the first predators in Earth's history, hunting and devouring bacteria. Such ancient molecular fossils provide researchers with unique insights into prehistoric life and ecology, tied to some exciting findings. Previously, experts had suspected that the early oceans were a largely bacterial world, but the new discovery shows that this was probably not the case. New deep-sea shark. Even a quick glance at the goblin shark is enough to tell you one thing. The mysterious denizens of the deep sea have blossomed in some very bizarre ways over time. The shark that researchers recently discovered in Australian waters also effortlessly joins the list of peculiar sea creatures. While this subspecies of cat shark has a dark body with striking white eyes, researchers uncovered its existence by following the trail of some strange-looking eggs. For example, Brett Human came across a strange yolk-yellow shark egg adorned with deep T-shaped grooves at a Western Australian museum some time ago. Examination of one embryo initially suggested that we are dealing with the offspring of a known shark species, but the eggs lacked the telltale grooves. The discovery of more eggs and a pregnant female later, however, it was clear that the researchers had just stumbled upon a completely unknown species. The experts did not have to search long for a suitable name. The animal was christened Apristeris ovicorrugatus, which means nothing more than grooved egg. Probably the notches are to protect the embryos during the development process. Basically, the eggs of the cat sharks are made of tough keratin-like collagen, though they still allow seawater to flow inside them. The shark that hatches from such an egg is at home at an average depth of 550 meters and perceives its environment with an excellent sense of taste, hearing, and smell. What's more, cat sharks can even register electrical fields in the water that can lead them to potential prey fish. Tessellated pavement. Sometimes it's hard to believe that certain rock formations are natural, and yet, although the tessellated pavement looks like an oversized mosaic pavement, we're dealing with the result of a unique geological phenomenon. For example, this area consists largely of siltstone, which formed about 300 million years ago from sediments deposited in a relatively low-lying area. Local stresses on Earth's surface eventually caused the siltstone to develop cracks and fractures in certain directions, which have since formed the joints of the mosaic. The factors of time and water then made the natural work of art perfect. While years of erosion have enhanced the appearance of the mosaic, the constant action of the seawater sloshing over the rocks during the changing tides has led to seepage of saltwater. Glowworm Tunnel. Where the stunning beauty of nature meets an eerie urban legend, begins the story of the Glowworm Tunnel in Helensburgh, Australia. As the name suggests, the tunnel has been home to a gigantic colony of fireflies for some time now, transforming the dark passageway into a blue-green starry canopy. Officially, however, we're dealing with the Metropolitan Tunnel, which was built in 1889 as part of the city of Helensburgh first train station. However, one worker is said to never have left the tunnel to this day. the ghost of Robert Hales, a miner who died in an accident. The chilling story goes that Robert was struck by a train one night in 1895 and torn in half. To this day, many a visitor would like to hear Robert's footsteps echoing in the tunnel. Some would even like to have seen the desperate soul running away from the approaching train. Meanwhile, access to the Glowworm Tunnel has been restricted. The gate is only open to visitors at certain times. However, this is not for the sake of protecting ghosts, but for animal protection. The damage and flashes of the past had significantly reduced the number of fireflies. And with that, thank you for watching our video all the way to the end. Be sure to leave us a thumbs up and a subscription so you never miss another one of our videos. Before you take a look at the other contributions in the credits, we'd like to ask your opinion. Which discovery captivated you the most? Have you ever been to Australia yourself and experienced something exciting? We're looking forward to your comments.